I'm John from Zonguru. This is our headquarters here in Los Angeles, and welcome to Amazon Seller Insights. This is episode 18. Can you believe it? We've got a bunch that we've got through, and this is a series where we interview sellers or interview experts, and we're really here just to learn from them, be inspired by them, and to use that information for our own Amazon businesses, which hopefully all of us have or are trying to get going as soon as possible. Hopefully not launching in the middle of Q4, but as quickly as you can get going would be great. And so what we're going to do today is we've got Howard Lee back, which is awesome. I think you were here 6 months ago. And Howard Lee is an expert in PPC, amongst other things. He's got an agency called Correlate, and they do a bunch of stuff, basically professional services for your Amazon business. But specifically today, we're going to focus on PPC. That's one of his areas of specialities. And we're going to talk a lot about Q4. So what's happening, what's upcoming in Q4, and what you need to do to prepare for that, and just kind of hit the ground running during that. So super excited to get through that. So welcome, Howard.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So what's been happening in the last 6 months since we met up in terms of Amazon and PPC and changes, and what's going on there?
Where do I start? Well, I think last time we spoke, there were several groundbreaking features that came out for Seller Central PPC campaigns that you could use to create and advertise. There was the introduction of the automatic targeting groups. There was the introduction of placement multipliers. Product targeting was also a big one. But
yeah, that was
yeah, those are definitely huge. But I mean, so if the question is what's new since then,
yeah,
there hasn't really been anything earth-shattering on that level since then. But there's been a lot of experimentation. There's been a lot of theories and suggestions and tips that have been floating around. Meanwhile,
so what are some examples of some of those theories?
Yeah, I think there's been several blogs and several authorities who have said that if you want to create your campaigns, and if you create a campaign and if you set your top of search multiplier to 900%, then your ACS is going to be very favorable. It's going to convert very well, and all is going to be well with that. And it turns out that like just this morning, I was in a mastermind and somebody said they tried it for 2 weeks and it cost them $100,000, and it didn't convert at all. So, and he's an eight-figure seller, so obviously he can absorb a 6-figure loss, right? No, I'm just kidding. But it was pretty painful. But we've been hearing a lot of stories about that. There's actually been other.
When you say ACS, do you mean like ACOS? Is that
ACOS? Yeah.
ACOS. Sorry.
Yeah, I meant to.
I missed it. Okay,
yeah, I meant
gotcha.
to articulate a
Okay,
little more
gotcha.
clearly. The ACO, yeah, like so. There's been several cases of that. Several other people who have done case studies within our. I'm also part of a PPC mastermind, and in that mastermind. A lot of the experts would congregate and we would discuss what's happening with our client accounts. And they see the same, where clients would go off and create their own campaigns, peg the top of search at 900% with a $1, $2 bid. Plus, they would also enable the dynamic top-down dynamic bidding, which actually could also increase. So that increases your bid up to 100%. And then if you add the top of search multiplier by 90%. So hypothetically, you can have your bid increase by 1,800%. So a lot of people got in trouble with that strategy.
And probably naturally pushed up a lot of the PPC bids.
A lot of the bids got pushed up, right? And it was just, it was just a losing game for everybody.
Gotcha.
So we saw that. We also saw how, I wouldn't say there's significant new features per se, but there's going to be a list I'm going to mention in a little bit. But we saw behavioral changes in some of the campaigns. So the few days leading up to Prime Day, it was we saw a little bit of wasted spend, and then Prime Day hit, and then all's well for the 2 days. And then typically what happens after a sales holiday, whether it's Prime Day or Black Friday or the holiday season in general, is that the costs would spike up, but only spike up temporarily. CPCs would spike up, ACOS would spike up, but it will only do so for a temporary period of time. So August traditionally has been a month where we're segueing into back to school time. So when consumers have a back to school shopping sentiment, that's when scales usually recover and they pick up. That happened quite a bit later across a wide variety of product niches and categories. So we had campaigns that had ACOSs increase without any tuning, without increasing any sort of bids. We saw ACOSs increase anywhere from 50% to 100%. So if an ACOS was traditionally 15%, it would increase to 30%. So you guys can imagine we had quite a few unhappy clients wondering what the hell's going on. But again, we had this discussion amongst our peers, and everybody, for the most part, saw a similar pattern. So,
now, is that across all categories? And the reason I ask is actually Will, who was on here a couple of weeks ago, he was saying that what he's seeing from a lot of his clients are people with big brands are literally, starting to notice Amazon and understand, obviously advertising platforms are there, and they're trying to go in there and dominate the competition. So they're going in there and they're blasting, super high PPC bids, all of that kind of stuff, and just really raising a lot of the actual bids within the marketplace. So are you seeing that, and also seeing that across all categories, or are you seeing it in some categories and not in others?
Yeah, we've definitely seen it across all categories, across the vast majority of the categories that we manage. We've seen CPC costs increase over time, but we're able to, whatever the client's ACOS or their PPC objectives are, we were able to maintain that. But August was just an outlier month where things just spiked to the point where even with our tuning, our usual tuning best practices and our optimization best practices, it was hard to keep a lid on it. And we only saw a reprieve towards the end of August and go into September. So we've also seen, because we have a couple of accounts that they're not Nikes or I don't know, Reeboks or General Mills or anything like that. They're not big like that, but they are they're reputable brands off of Amazon. Amazon is simply just one of their channels, where even their ACOS in August spiked. So they would have an ACOS traditionally of maybe 4%, and it increased to 6%. So for a lot of us, that's no big deal, but to them that's a 50% increase in ACOS. So it's really hard to say, because in their niche, there's really only a limited number of competitors that they have. And we can only imagine that all their CPC and ACOSs increased simultaneously. I don't think any one seller tried to bully their way to the top of PPC. It just so happened in the month of August.
Yeah, so I mean, Amazon, what we understand is that Amazon is making PPC more of its focus, because obviously it's a revenue generator for them. Right. And as the market, gets better and better and more complicated, I guess, maybe that's not the right word, but complicated, advertising becomes more and more important. So
right.
How big is advertising as part of your overall strategy for Amazon? Is it increasing, staying the same? What's your take?
I would probably say it's increasing. It's Amazon realizes it's a cash cow. So what they've done over the years, for those who have been in the game long enough, they've seen that more and more space on the search results page, on the product page, is being carved out for PPC over time. And then Amazon's also getting more creative as to what types of ads that get displayed, and they're always changing things up as time goes on.
It's like Google 10 years ago when they were doing.
It's like Google 10 years ago. In fact, I don't know. There's kind of a rumor that Amazon has actually started to poach some of the team on the Google search algorithm team to Amazon to kind of get their algorithm like up to speed to make it look more like Google.
Yeah.
Google's algorithm. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Q4. It's coming up. That's obviously the biggest season for us. What do you see from sales numbers, just based on historical experience? Like, what could people potentially attribute their Q4? I mean, obviously it's category specific, but what do they see in terms of a bump of sales? What are you seeing in the space? And then maybe we can move into talking a little bit about preparing for Q4.
Sure. Typically for Q4, the thing with these Amazon sales holidays like Prime Day and Q4 is that they kind of leapfrog each other. Once the previous event passes, then the next event kind of leapfrogs the previous one, the most recent one. And they just kind of keep leapfrogging each other in terms of sales increases and the most amount of sales generated on Amazon. So for Q4, it's typical to expect sales increase of maybe 2 times of what your average sales volume is, but on average maybe 3 times increase for Q4, sometimes up to 10 times. We've seen that occur too. So it's really dependent on your visibility on Amazon. It's dependent on how well you've prepared your listing as well as your PPC campaigns as you go into Q4.
And how much cash flow you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you got to get those products in now. If you're placing orders, right now, then you probably have to really seriously consider air shipping them into Amazon, just because things are going to get really, really tight in terms of logistics. Everybody's trying to get their products in as well, so it's going to be really, really difficult. So now's the time to start making some pretty big decisions on prepping yourself for Q4.
Yeah, and that's not only Amazon, but we're looking at, in terms of trend, we're like into the 3rd year of 3PLs, and even some 3PLs are like stacked up and can't take more. So where do you actually put your stock if you can't put it into Amazon or 3PLs? It gets a little tough.
Right. Yeah. Like this one account that we're very, very closely monitoring. We don't do supply chain management for them or inventory planning, but they're perpetually running low on inventory. And I told them, August is probably the very, very last month you need to project your sales increase going into Q4. And they've only been around since March. So they have no idea, they have no history to base on how many to order. And I just told them, I don't know, order 4 times more than you think you need for Q4. And if you're going to sell out, there's nothing you can do. But if you don't sell out, then at least, yes, after the holiday season, sales are going to dramatically slow down again. But his peak season starts in February, March. So, bring your 20,000 units into the US, store it in a warehouse, and then just drip them out to Amazon during Q4. And then, because Amazon's going to charge higher storage fees, but just kind of drip them out to Amazon. And then once the holiday season closes, hopefully if he has any inventory left over in the warehouse, right, then he could take that inventory and stock up for the new year. So,
Gotcha. Okay, so anything more in terms of Q4 preparation before we jump into your tutorial and kind of go over that? Any other high-level thoughts on that?
There's a lot to talk about. But
what's your top 2?
Top 2, I think, I was talking to a couple guys in the audience, before the cameras went live, and it seems like there's still maybe a good number of people who are not taking full advantage of PPC, some gaps that they may have missed that they could take advantage of. Definitely start that now. So one of the principles of Amazon PPC is that the Amazon ad algorithm does take into account your campaign age. Okay, so they take into account campaign age. They take into account clicks, and a third metric that they take into account is CTR, which is click-through rate. So the longer your campaign runs for, then the more of an advantage you have to win ad placement over your competition. That's not to say that you'll necessarily hit it all at ballpark and you'll annihilate your competition, but it gives you an edge. And How quantifiable is that? It's hard to quantify, but it definitely gives you an edge. So if you haven't started campaigns yet for your products, you got to do that. Start doing that now. Usually the campaigns...
And don't turn them off.
And don't turn them off, right. So aging usually takes about 4 weeks on average. It could happen faster within 2 weeks for manual campaigns. It can happen, sometimes it takes maybe 6 or even 8 weeks to do. For automatic campaigns, we see them instantly pick up by the ad algorithm. But for manual campaigns, you definitely want to get those going now, today. Even if you're just only going to put in a handful of keywords, just get something started today. Get those up and running today.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. So I know you've got a bunch of ideas and thoughts around Q4 strategies, campaign setup, and it worked so well last time with doing a little bit of like over-the-shoulder stuff. I'd love to do that today as well. We can jump in and go through a little bit of that and then open it up for some questions too.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so probably going to breeze through this section a little bit, but definitely make sure your product pages are optimized. PPC, Amazon PPC is dependent on your product pages being optimized, especially the front end. So your titles, your bullet points, description. Make sure that those are optimized so that the Amazon ad algorithm can pick up and index those keywords that are in your PPC campaigns. Okay. So yeah, just kind of jumping straight into keyword targeting. The first page for keyword targeting, definitely do your keyword research, create your manual campaigns today, if none exist. So we talked about campaign aging just a few seconds ago, but it also gives you an opportunity to tune and optimize your campaign so that once Q4 hits, hopefully all you have left are high value, high converting, sensible keywords with reasonable ACOSs that you like, that fit your business model so that you can get those going once Q4 hits. So that's one thing. If you have new products that you want to add and you have existing manual campaigns, even if the products don't make sense, you may want to consider adding those new products into your well-performing campaigns. Just don't add them to the same ad groups as your existing products. Create new ad groups for them, and then add the product and the keywords into those ad groups.
Wow, that's interesting. I never thought of that. And the reason for is that you want to, because they seasoned ad accounts.
Yeah, the campaigns are seasoned. Yeah. They're favored by Amazon.
Gotcha.
So Amazon will pick that up. There's even a strategy where if you've discontinued a product or you're no longer interested in selling a product, but the campaigns ran well, and if it's recent enough, see if you can just reuse that campaign for your new SKU that you want to add into it. Or you can even take existing products and add them into that campaign that used to advertise a completely different product. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. So I think my page is cutting off, but down here, I think I put too much text. But yeah, down here where it's cut off, I do mention that the key metrics are campaign age, CTR, and clicks.
Gotcha.
Okay. So the second page about keyword targeting is...
So just a question on that, but when you say a good performing campaign, what is, and you say clicks and conversion rates, and ACOS, so what are some good numbers as a range?
Right. Yeah, so for CTR, at minimum, we're looking at 0.3%, but something that really resonates with the audience usually will have a click-through rate of 0.5% to 0.7% and even higher. We've seen CTR rates of 2%. For really well-performing keywords in campaigns. For clicks, it's really it's relative. So you would just compare the number of clicks that one campaign has versus another. So just whatever campaigns have the highest number of clicks, go for that. Age is the same thing. It's relative to what you have in your account because you can't see your competitors' clicks and their campaign age either. So really, it's just a matter of looking at your account and determining which are the best campaigns to pick from.
Gotcha.
Just to breeze through this, we'll probably demonstrate some of this with Keyword on Fire with Zonguru, but here's a little page on how to do keyword research, whether you're conservative or aggressive. So if you're really conservative, you want to have a limited set of keywords. If you're aggressive, you want to try to blast against as many keywords as possible. Definitely consider all match types. because exact matches only typically tend to get 1/3 of PPC traffic. Okay. Let's see. So product targeting. You can also, just like we described with keywords, you may want to consider adding product targets to well-performing manual campaigns, because the targeting type is actually specific to the ad group. Okay, so you can actually mix keyword targets and product targets in the same campaign, just different ad groups. Targeting filter. So one way to filter on which types of which of your competitors target is to look for products where the price range are within 20% of your price, and also where the review count, product rating is less than yours. Okay, so going to something we haven't really touched upon even in the last meetup, but sponsor brands, ads creation. So just real quickly, these are our best practices on how to create sponsor brands. You take the keywords and the data from your sponsored products campaigns, and you want to create at least 3 tiers. You want to take your keywords and group them into 3 tiers. So first tier will be your best performing, best converting keywords. The second tier are the ones that are the next best performing and converting keywords. And third tier are the stragglers. Okay. Create headline copy which are consistent with your highly converting search terms. So for garlic press, which is the ubiquitous example we always use, but
I use yoga mats.
Okay, yoga mats. All right. So yeah, so if you're selling, gosh, this kind of throws me off. If you're selling, I guess, water bottles for yoga people, and the yoga mats come up, then your headline copy should say something like, "This water bottle goes great with your yoga mat." If all the high converting keywords are yoga mats, or have the words yoga mat in it. At the very least, display your top three converting ASINs in the headline. So when you have the headline, usually shows 3 products. Find your top 3 converting ASINs and group them together. If you're using, so as a landing page, if you're using the search results format, you want to have at least 6 or 7 products show up there. The reason why is if you only set up for 3, and out of the 3, 1 of them goes out of stock, your ad could be paused, because you're supposed to have at minimum 3 products displaying for sponsored brands campaigns. Yeah. For the brand image, which is the image to the left of the headline, test between the first product image, brand logo, or lifestyle image. So here's a rundown of holiday prep. So 1 week before Black Friday, focus your attention basically on top conversions. Okay, so that's the running theme through all these bullet points. So look for the campaigns that are top converting, increase their budget by 50%. Look for your top converting targets, keywords and product targets, increase their bid by 50%. Usually that's not too many keywords. Usually it's a handful of maybe 5 or 10 keywords. If a placement is doing well, increase the bid adjustment, not by 900%, but maybe 50%. And then for automatic targeting groups, you have 4 choices now: close match, loose match, substitutes, and complements. So find out which of those targeting groups is the top converting ones, and increase the bid on that by 50%, because you can individually bid based on the automatic targeting group. Okay. Down below, if you want to be aggressive, you can also focus some of your ad spend on the close match and loose match automatic targeting types, because they tend to show up on lightning deals and deal of the day. And you guys know those are going to be running rampant across all your competitors all through the holiday season.
Okay, so lightning deals, I mean, a lot of us are in the private label niche space. We're not necessarily in cosmetics or some of these bigger categories. How important do you feel like lightning deals and all of these things are to, do you have to be in it to kind of win it, or is it like, hey, I'm even if I don't participate in those things, I'm still going to see a good bump during the Black Fridays and that kind of stuff? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. So my quick advice is only create lightning deals on products that are ranked well on high visibility keywords, and test it. Because even then, if it doesn't convert well, if your lightning deal doesn't net you any sort of benefit, then don't bother spending that $150 down the road. So definitely test it, but don't test it on a new product with no reviews and it's poorly ranked. Only test it on product that's ranked very well.
Nice.
Yeah. So here's some holiday expectations. So hopefully with all this work, during the holidays with well-positioned listings, you'll save money. That's the long and short of this page. And then this is a case study about seasoning. Some new features. So just to jump into that real quick. So sponsored products. There is a way to negative match on ASINs in automatic campaigns, but you can only do that through tools that have access through the advertising API. Okay, you cannot do that in Campaign Manager. You cannot do that in bulk files. For product targeting, if you're in toys, you can now filter on age group. If you're selling books, you can filter on genre.
Wow.
You can also target your competitors based on whether they're prime or non-prime eligible. So the competitors that don't have prime listings, they are definitely converting worse than your listing with all things being equal. So definitely target them. The other new feature, the other new function in sponsored products that has come out is a fourth bullet point down, which is Amazon is displaying sponsored product ads in the spots where the AMS product display ads have been displaying. So that's kind of a way to allow Seller Central sellers to advertise in those spots. Also, all 4 automatic targeting types can now have different bids, so you can tune that. For sponsored brands, I guess the first 3 are pretty big. Bulk creation of new campaigns, that's something that Amazon's supposed to roll out, because previously you would have to manually create. We would create up to hundreds of sponsored brands campaigns for potentially every SKU. So we would actually have to manually create every campaign by hand. So with bulk creation, that helps us, but I think it was broken last I checked. It may be fixed by now, but we haven't created sponsored brands in a while. Custom image in some mobile placements. We haven't really tested that out yet. Amazon can now help you select products for you in the headline ad based on relevance, which it's good if you're short on time, but sometimes it's kind of risky to let Amazon determine for you what to just advertise. Yeah.
The most expensive.
Could be most expensive. Yeah. It could help line Jeff Bezos' wallet. With features like that. Also, there's a new broad keyword modifier, the plus sign. So if you have a keyword where you put the plus sign before it, like say men's shoes, then the broad match will always broad match against search terms where the word men is required to be in that search term. Okay, so it'll broad match against men's shoes, men's sneakers, but it will not broad match against, say, sneakers or running shoes. So that's kind of like a little bit of something from Google AdWords that's being carried over. So that's that. Okay. We could jump into
let's jump in.
some keyword research.
Yeah, let's jump in, but there's a lot of complexity to here, and obviously you're deep in it at a level of expertise that a lot of us aren't. The honest thoughts from you in terms of what are the basics that you need to get right, and even if you get the basics right, how big is the difference between the basics and some of this very deep level expertise that you have, from an honest kind of assessment, because, this is like a full-time gig just doing all of the stuff that you're doing.
Right. Yeah, the 80-20 applies as far as the difference between the basic stuff versus the more advanced stuff. Like as far as tuning and optimization goes, there's really only very few steps that can cut a lot of the fat out, cut a lot of the wasted spend, increase your ad performance. But time and time again, what we're discovering is that most people don't even do that. They're not on top of it. They're not paying attention to doing keyword research, doing optimization or tuning. For keyword research, a lot of times what would happen is you do keyword research And even if you set the bid to the suggested bid, sometimes that ACS is gonna just skyrocket. It's gonna hit 150%, 200%. And what needs to be done is to try to taper that down. Try to reduce the bid, try to determine which search terms to negative exact match, which are not converting but getting a lot of clicks. And if you just keep staying on top of that, that's going to start trimming your bid down. But there's a couple more, I think I would consider them intermediate, advanced, well, yeah, I guess intermediate level things we do. Like we look at keywords and look at the CTR. So even if they're converting, is the CTR poor? Because if the CTR is poor, then we kind of want to quarantine them away from the keywords that do have a healthy CTR, all in the name of boosting and maintaining the CTR of the campaign overall. Gotcha. Yeah. So I think the 80-20 applies. I know a lot of people have so many things to do, take care of, right? Like listings going down or trying to get reviews. But as far as PPC goes, if you're running them, you should definitely not treat them as like a secondary priority.
Good, great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So do you want to dive in and look at some other things?
Wanted to dive into the Zonguru tool, Keywords on Fire. So just to kind of demonstrate the difference between say like doing an aggressive keyword research process versus a more conservative keyword research process. So it's something that so with Keywords on Fire, what one of the things what we really like and appreciate is that it's different from a lot of other keyword tools in a lot of ways, and one of them is that a lot of other keyword tools, in order to generate keywords traditionally, as well as to do reverse ASIN searches, you kind of have to cut that into, it's two different pages, it's two different processes. Whereas Keywords on Fire consolidates that process into one, which is really great. So it's not just a matter of just cutting two steps into and consolidating into one. All the data in the calculation is just consolidated into one results page, and from there we could determine what actions to take after that. So in this case, like say if we have a product that's a so the thing I was searching earlier, let me reset the session. So if I go to Keywords on Fire, the main page, and so as you can see, with my two most recent searches are for something called a solar flagpole light. So what I can do is I'll search for that product, so flag light as an example. And then one thing I really like is that there's a select all button. And I'm looking for products that are UFO shaped. They're kind of like this circular disc shape going on. And I want to exclude the products that look like spotlights. Okay, so that would be a search that is more relevant. I'm honing in on the relevance. So what I can do is I uncheck all these products that look like spotlights, okay, to be conservative, or more conservative at the very least. Now, if I want to be aggressive and look at all the keywords across all these products, because all these products showed up for the master keyword flag light, then I'm just going to go ahead and simply click on Add Product.
So one little trick there, Howard, as well, is that you could select some of those products, exclude some, and then you can do another add product phases and add like solar flagpole, something else. So you can add multiple phrases if you want.
Right. Yeah, it turns into an iterative process and that's just the natural course of keyword research, right? It's always iterative. So we can see that I've actually previously generated or I've actually kicked off two searches previously. So like you were alluding to, one of them is solar flag light. So it's more focused, it's a little more niched down. So then I could jump into the keywords for that. So if I click on details, one of the things I looked at, one of the ways to interpret this data is I could look at keyword dollars. I can also look at search volume. Search volume, I think, it's interesting. I think there's debate whether search volume matters or not, and I think it matters because if you don't have search volume, nobody's searching for that keyword. So you kind of have to have some search volume for the keywords. One of the key columns we also have been prioritizing more and more over time is top 25 competitors. Number of competitors that rank in the top 25 of this keyword. So I'll get to that in a little bit. Number of reviews. Also, these three columns on the right. So these three columns on the right help us in some ways, not in some ways, but these three columns together tell us the relevance of this keyword that is generated. It all rolls up into the ZG score, so that's a kind of a straightforward way of looking at it. But say, I want to look at, so say for a lot of these keywords, we see a lot of competitors also have these keywords, or they're ranking for these keywords too, so I want to limit it, right? So I go to the filter and I choose top 25 keywords, and maybe I want to look at less than or equal to 10. Okay. So right now, if I scroll down, there's a lot of these keywords, and how many pages worth is it? Let's see. There's 297 entries down here. But if I scroll up and I want to just look at longer tail keywords to target, this is one way to do it.
I don't know why they're working. You hit the filter?
Yeah. Oh, wait. Okay.
Oh, it's filtered. Yeah, it's filtered by top 10.
Top 10, right? Top 25 competitors, less than or equal to 10. So then this gives me the list of keywords I can use to target, and we see that. Let's see if I sort by Zonguru score, then things like flagpole topper, solar light pole, flat light kit. These are the kind of keywords that I would want to target if I want to go longer tail, if I wanted to go more relevant, more niche, and not compete against the higher traffic keywords where there are all 25 competitors competing against it. Another column that I like to filter on is number of reviews. So say, I want to look for keywords where the number of reviews is less than, here, let's see how many reviews, what's the top number of reviews we see? So 4,000, 1,000, and so on and so forth. So let's say we want to go less than or equal to 500. So I filter on that, sort by ZG score, quick and easy, and this gives me another set of keywords that I could consider and work on. So maybe like another filter we can add is to add back that top 25 competition. And filter, let's put it at 15 and see what comes up. Okay, so it's filtered. Okay. And we see total search volume across all the keywords is 23,000 monthly searches, which is not bad if we're focusing on our efforts on targeting all these keywords. And we can see that it might be worth targeting flagpole kit, telescoping flagpoles. So customers who are buying flagpoles, they may be considering wanting to buy a light so that their flag is illuminated 24 hours a day. So we see this complementary relevance occur. And in fact, this is the case. So with this one account, it's been selling this product for 6 years or so. And we've certainly seen these keywords convert well to basically have a crossover audience who are buying flagpoles also pick up a flag light at the same time. So yeah, this tool is really powerful for us to help us accelerate our keyword research.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think, by finding these niche, longer tail keywords and complementary keywords that convert well, click-through rates, all that kind of stuff, and if you find those and they are less competitive and you can convert for them, in theory, what I understand is that also helps as a halo effect to start to really rank for some of the shorter tail, more volume keywords that are more competitive. So you've kind of like backdoored it by ranking for some of those longer tail ones converting well, and therefore the algorithm will start to push you up and you can rank for the other ones too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Case study, a verbal case study is that there's this one product where we targeted a keyword that had medium search volume. It had about 2,000 to 3,000 searches, monthly searches. We basically, through human analysis, we looked at the keyword and go, oh yeah, this definitely matches this product. And then we targeted that keyword through targeted URLs, that's another way of saying super URLs, targeted in PPC. And after we let PPC run for a month, we realized it wasn't really converting on that keyword. But there, like you said, there was this halo effect where the ranking for that product in a competitive niche, it skyrocketed for high volume keywords, like keywords that had 20,000, 50,000 searches a month. It just climbed up overnight. And no black hat, just simply targeting that one medium volume search keyword, and its halo effect spread. And we've been running that campaign for 6 months, and actually last week I checked back in again to see how conversions were. They were still crap. They were still very underwhelming, and yet the product is still doing well, ranking for all these other keywords. So you're absolutely right. It's sometimes that's just the nature of the algorithm. There really is no rhyme or reason, but sometimes it's just worth trying. I think in some ways, my guess is that the algorithm understands you're trying to target a keyword that's relevant, and even though it's not converting, the Amazon organic algorithm is experimenting your product on these other keywords, and if those convert, then the organic algorithm goes, okay, maybe there's something to this. Let's help you rank further and further upward and reward you for that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I think, definitely just kind of in summary there, I think, being able to use keywords on Fire to break it out between more conservative, long tail, mid-volume keywords to put into a campaign, as well as putting out some of the more aggressive ones in a separate campaign is obviously a good idea to do before Q4. And again, making sure you target a wide variety of those keywords to make sure you cover, whatever's in your listing, I think is important before Q4 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And by me demonstrating a way to look at higher relevant keywords or cheaper keywords or keywords that have more opportunity, that's not negating trying to advertise against all keywords to be more aggressive. You could be aggressive with your keyword research, but be conservative with how you bid, and then how much of a budget you set aside for the campaigns. There's another case study where a product that just had a really tough time launching, just was really sluggish for 2 years, and then suddenly 2 years later, one day, there's what we felt was an extreme long tail keyword just pop up out of the blue. And what we did with that keyword is, okay, it was in PPC, so it popped up in PPC. Sure, fine. But then we took the keyword, and that keyword is actually a subcategory in Amazon. So we moved the product to that subcategory. And I think I was telling Chris this earlier that sales jumped 10 times just by virtue of moving. So it is worthwhile to investigate long tail keywords, try them out, experiment them, see if they convert, and
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Let's open up to some questions. I know you guys are definitely going to have some questions around this topic. Let's do it.
You mentioned account history and not turning off campaigns. If you had stuff that was going for like a year or 2 years and then you shut it off and you want to start the campaign over, is it better to start fresh or turn those campaigns back on and just continue to do what?
Yeah, if those campaigns have been turned off for more than 2 months, you might as well create a new campaign because it's at that point aged out in Amazon's eyes. Yeah.
So I launched a product about a month and a half ago, and I took a bunch of these keywords, added them to a bunch of different campaigns, and about 90% of them have 0 impressions. Even though a month later, I'm ranking on page 1 of the top 20 for all of them. I don't understand why we're not getting any impressions at all. Is that pretty standard? And if so, how do you actually get those
That's a very good question. The way customers respond to ads can be different than the way they respond to the organic search results. So even if your ad shows up, like we've seen it from a data standpoint, where the scenario that you just painted for us just now, where for whatever reason in a specific niche or the way the search results page looks like, where the ad shows up, you can be ranked really well, but something about that ad, something about how Amazon's UX is, like how they display the ad for it, there's something off about it.
But
It's not necessarily.
are you saying you're not getting any clicks or any impressions?
Zero impressions.
So you're not getting impressions.
I
Okay.
only get $5 a bid. No impressions at all.
Probably have to break it down to another smaller campaign, right?
Right.
I've tried them on individual keywords too. One campaign, one keyword, negative for all the other campaigns.
Is the product in a restricted category?
No.
Okay. And I'm gonna assume that you have keyword optimized your listing,
Yes.
and it's in the relevant category.
Yes.
So have you tried turning off the campaign and trying to recreate a new campaign?
So I originally had 17 campaigns. I've turned off 15 of them, and then I recreated new campaigns. I only have 2 with an automatic campaign. I turned off the automatic, and then I created new campaigns with just 1 keyword each.
Okay.
And the only ones that showed up and are getting impressions were the ones that were shown through the automatic campaign.
Okay.
The others are showing 0 impressions.
So the next thought I have is that you probably want to re-examine the keywords in your listing, because it sounds like a keyword somewhere is being flagged by Amazon. I mean, you know your listing and the keywords that you use to optimize the listing best, but typically we typically go through that checklist, and if there's no impressions, then typically like there's a word somewhere or a keyword somewhere that is restricted from being, even though the product itself is fine and it's a category that's completely kosher. But there's been a couple cases where we found a keyword that that is associated with a restricted product category. Are you very familiar? You're probably very familiar with all the keywords that you use to optimize your listing.
Yeah.
And are you definitely indexed for that keyword?
We are indexed for all of them. And
You've checked them, yeah?
Yeah, I've checked them, and we're on page 1.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. The other suggestion is just so I know you created 15 campaigns. Did you have issues with it from the very first campaign? Is that why you created 15 or?
Yeah, so I read somewhere that you shouldn't create more than 10 keywords per campaign. I have 108 keywords, something like that. So I created 17 or 18 campaigns, 10 keywords each. And then the vast majority, 90% of them showed 0 impressions. So I was like, hey, what's going on here? So I started showing them, I ran it for a month. I started showing them down one by one. And then the only 2 that I kept were the ones that actually showed impressions. And the rest of them, I started experimenting with just really, really high bids.
Yeah.
High bid on the actual campaign itself, but no impressions.
Yeah. How's your CTR on the underperforming campaigns? How's your CTR, your click-through rate, number of clicks?
Good question. I need to do more research on that. I don't have any research.
Yeah, because Amazon may be doing that. Because you were saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you at least have 2 campaigns that are for that product that are generating impressions and clicks.
Yes.
So the algorithm may be deciding, hey, you know what, your other campaigns are just, they're not performing relative to your more.
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
It's not that they didn't perform. They got 0 impressions. I spent. I mean, I upped it to like $5, you know.
Yeah.
But nothing on campaign level. I would up the budget for campaign at $20.
Yeah, it's a pretty unusual case, but my guess yeah, just based on my understanding of the algorithm. So if everything else is exhausted, say for example, the keywords in your listing, all of it looked kosher, none of it looked like even remotely related to, say, drugs or other types of products. My understanding of the algorithm is that possibly it's seeing these two campaigns, and Amazon's algorithm is just biased towards those two campaigns. It's not even considering the 15 other campaigns.
Maybe your daily budget is not high enough. You know, that's another thing.
It's pretty high right now. I mean, I guess what you're suggesting is I should put those keywords into that campaign and test that out.
You can try that, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, so for the strategy of so for sponsored products, the strategy of creating multiple campaigns where each campaign is maxed at 10 keywords, we are of the opinion that we have a different opinion on that. So what we would generally do is we would take the keywords that we generate and put it into what we call like one manual research campaign. And that could be anywhere from 300 keywords. It could be from 10 keywords, 300, 1,000 keywords. But generally what we've seen over time, or real quickly within a matter of a couple of weeks, is that 100 to 200 of those keywords will get the impressions, and all the other ones don't. So if you kind of pivot that theory to how you created the campaigns, that may be going on, but I haven't personally seen that. So, yeah, maybe you want to try to, like you were suggesting, to take those keywords from the other campaigns and add them to the campaigns that are getting impressions. Because, yeah, Amazon may be pivoting the concept of really filtering down to just providing impressions to only 100, 200 keywords max. So that may be what's going on. But yeah, that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. I would love to troubleshoot that one.
Howard,
Yeah.
thanks for being here twice in 6 months.
Good seeing you again.
Appreciate it. Very powerful presentations. We are a private label, DNVB, and we produce new products at a pretty high rate. And we've been putting all those new products into a separate campaign to launch them for budgeting purposes, so that we're not looking at ACOS or ROAS on our mainstream keywords and using that metric to launch new products, which obviously would be detrimental. How do we handle budgeting if we bring those products into the main campaign rather than a separate campaign that we can isolate them and predetermine the spend on those products without it affecting ROAS or ACOS or anything like that?
Yeah, the short answer is the way you guys are doing it is the best way to budget. The more complicated, intricate response to that is to, I mean, it's either option A or option B. There's really no straightforward way of doing it, but another way of doing it is, whichever way you do it, you would have to create a new campaign. So the other way of doing it is to try to create a new campaign for your seasoned products, move those keywords from the existing campaign to the new campaign, okay? But you have your original campaign that's seasoned, and you would introduce your new products into that age campaign. So it's kind of tricky. The more straightforward way of doing it is how you guys are doing it. It's just simply create a new campaign for your new products. Yeah. There's no need to split hairs and do it the way I suggested as a second option. Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So if you come across a situation where there's a ton of campaigns, let's say like 500 plus, and a bunch of them are targeting the same keywords, so there's collision here on different campaigns on the same keyword, how do you go about that process of organizing kind of a
Yeah.
like that.
Whose account is that?
Probably many people have that account.
Okay.
Is it in your account? Does your account look like that?
Not mine.
Okay. So when you're talking about collision, what type of collision are you concerned about?
On certain keywords that are high volume, there's a bunch of different campaigns that
Yeah.
happen in them. And so you want to kind of, I think, isolate. If you want to find the best like keywords or product fit,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Definitely.
you're launching a bunch of new products that are kind of targeting a similar keyword,
Right. Right.
yeah, how do you go about
Are you cannibalizing one with the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as the concept of bid collision, that doesn't occur on Amazon.
Yeah.
So you can have the same keyword, with the same match type in different campaigns, advertising for the same SKU, and there is no bid collision between those multiple campaigns, those multiple instances of the keyword, which would cause your keyword bid to increase.
Amazon will just favor one over the other.
Correct,
campaign.
right. They'll actually, going back to the concept of campaign age and click-through rates and clicks, generally they will default back to the keyword in the more favorable position, for lack of a better way to describe it, in the more favorable campaign. There's exceptions to the rule. We see exceptions all the time, but generally that's what happens. As far as the same exact keywords and same exact match types in different campaigns for different SKUs. So if the SKUs are all, if say for example you're in the clothing category and all these SKUs are just simply a matter of, it's the same product, it's the same like t-shirt or a polo shirt, but it's different colors and different sizes, then it's just a matter of the Amazon ad auction will just operate at business as usual. So one SKU versus the other. So one SKU could get impressions and clicks more than the other. But generally, if you're just for the sake of efficiency, what a lot of people do, if they're in the clothing space or a space that has a lot of variations, is just simply create one campaign, and then have one ad group for each of those child SKUs or child ASINs. And then you could choose to put those same keywords in each of those ad groups and see how they shake out.
I actually have a question, kind of based on what we were talking about before, but I think it's worthwhile to kind of put it out there so everyone can kind of benefit from it. But I haven't been a big advocate of Amazon PPC just because a bunch of my products I've ran it, auto campaigns, manual campaigns, and the numbers tell me that there hasn't been any difference in sales volume, whether I turn it off or turn it on. We were talking about this before. What other ways, what other methods can I test to see, why that's happening, right? Why my sales isn't increasing at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely test, and it sounds like you've tested, and it doesn't work out for you. Say, for example, if you're running PPC, and you know how many units you're pushing a day organically, right? And you create these PPC campaigns, and they don't add to your bottom line. If you're selling 100 units a day, and you're still selling 100 units a day, even after you created PPC campaigns, that's something to look out for. And then after you turn the PPC campaigns off, you're still selling 100 units a day. Then it's telling you, okay, then maybe PPC is cannibalizing your organic sales, right? But with PPC, you have to spend money to run those ads, so it cuts into your profit margin. So in that case, you may strictly want to stick to organic sales. You may want to consider if there's some of these new features, like how long ago did you run your PPC and turn them off?
A few months ago.
Okay.
I'll mainly turn it on when it's been out of stock. Perhaps I'm just getting back in stock, kind of want to boost up the rankings, or if I'm doing new product launches, I'll turn it on. But once it's at a certain certain keywords, whether I turn it on or turn it off, I see no difference in overall sales volume.
Yeah, yeah.
That's only using the traditional, keyword search sponsored ads.
And you
Right.
and you're on page 1 though, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's also if you use page 1.
Right. The other thing, if you haven't considered doing it yet, is if you've only been traditionally doing keyword targeting, then you might want to try product targeting. So you want to target competitors that are at a disadvantage compared to your ASINs, and see if that helps. Another thing you want to try doing is, depending on when you stopped using PPC, like a lot of these new features rolled out between November 2018 and going into 2019, like with the placement multipliers and the automatic campaigns with the different targeting groups. So you may want to consider trying to run that and see if you do experience higher sales through that.
Awesome.
Cool.
Sweet. All right, Howard, that was awesome, man. Thank you. A lot of detailed information, and if we can share a couple of those slides with the Center Insights group, that would be great, because I think some of those key things that you had building up to Q4 was super important. So thanks again, as always, diving in deep and some super detailed answers there. So I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me, man. Really appreciate
absolutely.
it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.